Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to this meeting of the ordinary meeting of the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority, this 22nd of August 2025. I note that we have one apology for the meeting. That's Deputy Chairman Ben Fry. Can I have someone move to accept that apology, please? Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Gulliver, all in favour? Thank you. There's no one attending by AVL. The General Manager, I notice, attending by AVL?
Yes.
Correct. Central Tablelands Weeds Authority acknowledges the Wurundjeri people, the traditional custodians of the lands we work and live. CTWA celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tablelands, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. Members and public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting, other than any confidential matters, will be recorded and made publicly available on the CTWA website. Persons attending the meeting should note their conduct is being recorded. To item 4, are there any disclosures of interest? Council members are reminded of their obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest? No conflicts of interest, nil no. Move to item 5. Is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council on 20th of June 2025. The recommendation is that Council adopt the minutes of the ordinary meeting. Take the word extraordinary out, please. Of Central Tablelands Weeds Authority held at 7 Lee Street, Kelso at 2:39 p.m. on Friday, the 20th of June 2025. Okay, could I have a mover, please, for that on those words that I've just put right? Councillor Ring and Councillor Gulliver. Any comments, discussion in relation to those minutes? It was 2:39 p.m. Bethany, do you know? Let's call it 2:30 p.m. No, I think it was 2 p.m. actually. 2 p.m. Subject to that plan. So we'll read the Council adopt the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Central Tablelands Weeds Authority held at 7 Lee Street, Kelso at 2 p.m. on Friday, the 20th of June 2005. I put the motion that those minutes be adopted. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move to item 6, which is a confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Council held on the 24th of July 2025. The recommendation is that Council adopt the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Central Tablelands Weeds Authority held at 7 Lee Street, also at 2:39 p.m. on Thursday, the 24th of July 2025. Do I have a mover, please, for the motion? Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Gulliver, thank you. Motion, I take it as per the recommendation. Any discussion in relation to those minutes? If not, I put the motion that those minutes be adopted. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We move to item 7. Priority matters. The recommendation that Council notes the report. Have a motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Gulliver. Amendment, seconder, please. Thank you, Member Ring. Any discussion, please?
I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
On page 7, Michael, Fire Security Operations Manager, there's a reference July 25 plant samples have been sent away. When do we expect to get the results of those? Do we have a time frame?
No, we don't. I'll take that one on notice, Councillor.
I appreciate that.
We've got some group, sorry.
Are you happy, General Manager, if I ask the Chief Fire Security Officer to comment?
Yep, not a problem.
Yeah, sorry for you. We have some of the sample results back, but we're waiting on the results to come back on there. So that's the seed sampling, and then they've also started on the The other sample is just required.
So we were doing resistance sampling and we were also doing efficacy sampling as to whether the stuff works at all. So we've got some back on the which one?
So I'm back on seeds, but not all of them. There's a couple I just want to grow out, probably which one we're confirm, which hopefully we'll get very, very soon.
Yes.
And the other one they've started, but obviously they need the time to run that. So, but we don't have an ETA back on that, so.
I've got another question on page 8, work health safety. Have you looked at the policies, Michael, particularly the key ones like work health and safety? Because this was supposed to be an update going by this report, the 20th of June, deferred to future meeting. Have you actually worked out a timetable of some of these yet?
Through the chair, I've now compiled a list of all council's policies. I've commenced prioritisation of those policies and I've pulling together a timetable by which those policies can be put back to the council for endorsement, updating and endorsement. I can share an update at the next meeting.
No, that'd be appreciated. Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
I have nothing further, Chair.
Right on the one above, which is item 4/07/2022. Some time ago, I sent an email to Forestry Corporation, Jason Lockenden. He's been away for a period of time. I then spoke to his person who was sitting in for him, Claire, and she was she did for a period, and another person, Jack Cottrell's in. I had telephoned him twice to try and get an update of where we are with organising that meeting. He may be waiting until Jason comes back, and I'm not sure when he's back. Do you know, Chris? I haven't mentioned with I'll chase that up at the 4th time. Okay. Any other issues in relation to this item? 7? Yes. Member Rusk.
Through your chair, possibly either to the general manager or the chief fire security officer. With regard to the testing, is this testing done on the DPI funded or is this what we're funding?
Just some of each.
What we're funding.
They were funding. When they were funding the resistance and we were funding the efficacy? No, we're funding it all.
They spent all their funds.
So this is, can we put 4,000 towards this?
Forget the exact dollars, but we did the seed sampling was funded by us, and then the 3 lots of chemical that we sent down to get tested was getting funded by us as well. And then the other one was when we wrote to the AP11A, to see if they could get them to do the laboratory breakdown test on the individual chemicals.
So obviously we'll keep the intellectual property in relation to those test results and charge people accordingly for it. Yes.
So does this, through your chair to the chief fire security officer, does this then exhaust the funds that we've budgeted?
The 2 lots that we said we were going to spend, that's these 2 lots of testing that were sent away. So that's all we've approved at this point.
Were there 2 lots? I thought there was only 1 at 4,000.
No, there's 2. There's the seed one, and then there was the second one, which was the sending the 3 chemicals off to the 5.
Do you remember, Member Reynolds, how much we budgeted for testing?
I thought it was about 7, chair, but I could be wrong. It might be 5. I don't have the.
Through the chair, I believe it was 5,000.
One final question through you.
And General Manager, do you know, you don't know how much of that we've expended so far?
No, I don't. I can take that one on notice too.
So one final question through you, Chair. Once we've got all this data back, how are we going to use it? What's the ultimate goal with regard to, we've collected previous data, we've got this data, it's a small snapshot of the whole Weeds Authority, but what are we going to do with the data?
Well, I think the data is crucial for our present for moving forward, because we need to know what the extent of resistance is and the efficacy of the chemicals, the chemical we're using. If nothing comes up that's untoward, then we move ahead as we are. But if there are issues that arise in the testing that make us wary, then obviously as a body, we have to meet and determine a way ahead. That's the only thing we can say at this stage. I think it's until we have the results, we can't really prejudge where we're going. Other than to say we're going to have to meet to discuss it. Okay. Anything else? If not, then I put the motion that council notes the report. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We move to item 8.1 finance, 8.1.1 CTW finance committee minutes.
Yeah, may I move with an amendment or change?
There's got to be the audit report.
Where is that? This is the report at the moment. You're saying that you don't want to report? This is the report.
Yes, as in, I'll explain why once I've moved the amendment. So I just want to change one word from currently reads that council notes the report. I need to change it to council accepts the report. If I've got a second of that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
So the
Okay,
reason,
so you have an alternate motion?
just changing one word to accepts the report.
Yes, and it's seconded by member Ring. Thank you.
The reason being, it's only an advisory committee. And you just know the report, we've made recommendations there. Then if you accept the recommendations, then you're accepting, if you can reject or amend, or so we don't accept a particular recommendation. But therefore, it actually gives us, gives the committee, as in through the parent body, acknowledgement that what some of the recommendations, I'll have to go through them in a minute, but I just want to explain the reasoning why is so that the governing body actually accepts what the advisory committee has recommended.
Now, would you like to speak to this or will I let the author first?
I'm the general manager to speak to it first. Chair.
Yes, general manager, do you wish to speak to this?
I'll take the report as being read and happy to field any questions relating to it. It's basically the minutes of the first finance committee. As I said, happy to take questions.
So I'm happy to go through very quickly each of the 12, I think it's 12 recommendations, a couple
Well,
of
I think the commentary in the paper, if I might say, is pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I think that the first one is very important to actually go through, given that there was some closed council proceedings, etc., over the matter.
Which one?
Oh, sorry, not the first one.
No.
A later one.
The latter one. First one.
But the first one is, as in, we're going back out to tender. Hence why you've got to accept the recommendation. Otherwise,
That's
we
right.
don't go out to tender. But also one internal audit a year. I think that's important. As in, and the council can select the amount of internal audits. We just can't afford to have more than one. With regard to number 2, the terms of reference. While it was in the minutes of the previous one that there were potential changes and we're waiting for ARIC, given we don't have the ARIC minutes, we can't actually discuss and possibly suggest if we do hold an extraordinary one to look at the account that we actually bring that back then. With regard to number 3, audit timeframe, as the general manager may have.
Just remind me, you're the ARIC delegate. The recollection of that ARIC meeting was I thought the terms of reference were accepted, weren't they? We thought they were okay.
Well, the only trouble is whether we change with regard to procurement, which is still out for discussion because the recommendation, if you read the minutes of the last extraordinary council meeting,
Yes,
it had to come back to this council for discussion. We haven't because we don't have the minutes yet. So until we get the minutes of ARIC, we can't discuss it, if that makes sense, Chair.
Absolutely. That's a separate issue from the terms of reference.
We have to change, if you're going to change Oh, sorry, that's for the finance committee. So, but as in part of the discussion that I understood, and the general manager may be able to come in and qualify on this, was that the finance committee may have actually approval status with regard to quotations, as in if the general manager can't get through quotations, then this discussion, and hence why we may need to make a decision, may actually change the status of the finance committee to actually give it powers of decision. But that needs to be discussed once we determine how we're going to progress with if you can't get through quotes, if that makes sense. So hence why, as in at this stage, we have to wait until we look at the ARIC minutes and then make a decision on how, as in we are going to proceed with procurement policy, which will then potentially have an impact on the finance committee.
And the terms of reference.
And the terms of reference. Hence why we have to wait. Does that make sense, Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. Number 3, audit timeframe. The general manager, I believe, does have an update.
Yeah, through the chair, we were expecting the report from Audit Office New South Wales last Friday. They haven't delivered that, although I did have a meeting with the director and the deputy director. This week we've had further questions, which is forming up their opinion. I'm expecting the report next week.
Thank you, General Manager.
And after the report comes back, we'll have a finance committee meeting to discuss the report, Chair, and then recommend that we potentially have a extraordinary council meeting sometime in September to hear from the auditor or audit office and receive the accounts. Number 4, unless there's any questions on that. Number 4, who signs off on the general manager's wages? It's been suggested there that we monitor through the QBRS.
Yeah.
Given the experience of another county council and some issues there. Number 5 was to do with, and I haven't checked, but the draft financials on the website, they weren't up as part of the business paper. So they are now. Thank you, Ben. Number 6, no OP, DP and BASP on the website. Previous years were, but this year's weren't, so I don't know if they've gone up yet either. Number 7, investment cash reports, and it has been done on a monthly basis, so it was noted, and we do have in this
3 here.
paper
Yeah.
3 moving forward, and it will be done up to the previous month of the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Number 8, monthly reporting, is it possible, and will it be added to the add to the time frame? There's recommendations there about monthly reporting back to the finance committee meeting rather than having the quarterly, so we'll have actually better up to date. And the general manager, and unless I'm putting words in your mouth, general manager is happy to progress that.
Yes, I am.
Number 9, going out for quotation for financial services, which came out of, this is the one that came out of in camera discussions. And what was required to move forward. So given that the council has already got a resolution of the 1st of November to have a decision on quotation, so the general manager is going to come back with what's actually needed for with regard to external financial services to the next finance committee. So as soon as we have the financials back, we'll have the meeting, and then the general manager can then progress that. And the general manager did have some suggestions. I don't know, do you want to suggest anything or wait till we get a report from your general manager?
I'm happy to wait to prepare a report for the council, but I would say though that I've already pulled together a list of all the accounting functions across the term of the year. I've also got a meeting teed up with J&J Bookkeeping to speak through each of those, and that will then help me form up a terms of reference document. But as I said, I'll bring a paper back to the chambers.
Thank you, General Manager. Number 10, payment of councils on a set date each month. It's been wobbling around sometimes. over and under, so the general manager is looking at putting in a new process so that councillors get paid each month for their remuneration. Number 11, new extended QBRS rate of breakdowns. That circular came out just after we had a finance committee meeting from the Office of Local Government. GM has said that we will implement the new guidelines. And number 12, council investments moving forward. The general manager is currently having a look at investment options. And in the paper, we've got 3 different accounts at the moment, but whether we look at any fixed term deposits, and we'll come
Well,
back.
there was quite a bit of suggestions going on that issue previously.
Correct.
Through the chair, can I just say that I've got a meeting teed up for next Friday with our account manager at Westpac, so I'll be having a face-to-face with him to work through that item.
And that's it, Chair, unless there are any questions.
No, you covered all mine.
No,
Next time I'll have to get him before you.
no, I'm sure if you look at some of the previous, well, I don't know if they probably would be in the recordings. I'm not sure that they're in the minutes about views about longer term investments getting us better value for money rather than the short term ones we're having at the moment. Short term investments we have at the moment, and I'm sure Member Reynolds has already spoken about that.
Chair, just coming back to the recommendation, I've just been thinking about it, whether we should have the council accepts the recommendations as opposed to the report.
Well, I would say council notes the report and accepts the recommendations is how I would put it.
Okay, I'm happy with whatever.
Because you note the report and you accept the recommendations in it.
I'm happy with that, Chair. The second reason.
Yeah, I'm easy.
Yeah, because I too, looking at it and thinking, I don't think it's quite right. Yeah. All right, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion, which is now the motion, that council notes the report and accepts the recommendations in it. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Go to 8.1.2. 2024-25 Weeds Action Plan. Recommendation is that council notes the report. Move it, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Member Ring. Seconder. Member Dawson, are you scratching your face or is that a second? I think that was a second. Thank you.
Sorry.
Member Dawson, seconder. Thank you. General Manager, I think it's appropriate if I ask the Chief Fire Security Officer to speak on this. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Chris.
So just a quick overview to help explain a couple of things. The dollar figure that we have there for the WAP is higher than what we were anticipating. Now, part of that is a combination of things. One is a one-off one for this year where LLS, as part of their bucket of the WAP, had some funding they weren't able to use, so they divided it between the individual councils. So we ended up with some extra from that. And the other one was a underspend in another section as a collective group. So rather than giving it back to state, we as a collective group used it to get some signage made up to go on the roadsides for the councils that make up the Central Tablelands LLS region. So that's why that dollar number is larger than what we originally anticipated we were going to get.
And we insisted on getting the bulk of that money, I assume, because we're the largest.
Yeah, so part of it was the leftovers from the LLS thing, and part of it was underspend that we were going to have to give back in other ways. So we decided as a collective group to get some good out of that rather than having to give that funding back. The other things in there noting is that we managed to meet or surpass all the targets that we had listed for the WAP. The only one that we were shy on was the attending of the conference, and that's only because we didn't buy the last two tickets because they were going to be for two staff that we no longer have in the organisation. So that's the only reason that one's slightly down. We didn't have the people, so we couldn't buy the tickets for them. So yeah. Apart from that, as I said, everything else we've met or surpassed. The only other one that's a very big sort of difference in is the inspection of state-owned and managed land. The main reason that is so much higher is because of the road pair infestation located down at Glen Davis and Glen Alice areas. And that was mainly on Crown land blocks. It was mainly old mining country. So the boys had to then inspect every block in that area out until we found where the end of the infestation was. So that was something we weren't planning on doing until we had that infestation and that changed resources into that area. So,
Thanks very much, Chris. Any commentary on this?
Yeah,
Yes,
just as I get expenditure of grant programs and exceeding targets that are set. The staff should be congratulated
Yes, I agree.
on their performance. I think it's outstanding.
So we do note that they've all been met or exceeded.
Yep.
Absolutely. Member Reynolds.
While it is reported in 8.1.4, it was noted by a security officer with regard to this additional payment of salaries of, I think it's $30,000 reported in the web section of 8.1.4. It will have budget implications because when I compiled the budget, I was not of the knowledge that that was a one-off payment. So the budget actually has an extra $30,000 taken into account. I was aware of the signage when the budget was done. So there will be budget implications of approximately $30,000 unless something different happens and the minister, because there's inflation or something else rise, which I left it at the same as the last financial year.
Yes, we realise that.
Payment, but by the sounds of it, we may have a hole or a deficit, potential extra deficit of $30,000 check.
Yes, because it was one-off payment, so
Which I was unaware of.
right. Okay. Well, we're going to note that for the QVRS Finance Committee. Fine. All right. Any other discussion? Thank you, Chris. Excellent. All right. All in favour of the motion that council notes the report? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And we go to 8.1.3 investment and financial report, May, June, July. The recommendations, council notes the investment and financial report for May, financial reports, I think it should be, for May, June and July 2025. Can I have a mover, please? Member Reynolds, thank you. Seconder, Member Gulliver. Thank you. Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions to the General Manager. Firstly, with cash flow, and particularly to the end of July, we're down just over 200,000, about $210,000. And I suspect I know some of the reasoning, but does the General Manager have an indication of why we dropped by $210,000 in the month of July?
Through the chair, I don't have a specific reason for that. I do know that the member council invoices have gone out, but are yet to be paid. So we haven't had the inflow of cash into our counters yet, but I can take that on notice around the specific question there.
As a follow-up, Chair, I would suspect that part of it may be the retirement of the previous General Manager and a payout.
Well, it was payment
of cash.
Yes, payment out amount to the General Manager for long service and leave.
As well as operational.
And operational.
And insurance.
And insurance.
But I think the General Manager actually answered my second question, have the invoices gone out to the councils? So I don't need to ask him.
Okay, so the invoices, right, fine. Any other discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion that council notes the investment and financial reports for May, June and July 2025. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to 8.1.4, financial year 2025 financial analysis report. The recommendation is that council notes the financial year 2025 financial analysis report from the general manager. Could I have a mover, please? Member Ring. Member Gulliver. Thank you. Member Ring.
No, the report's it's fairly straightforward.
Member Gulliver.
I'm good.
Okay. General Manager, do you want to make any further comments in relation to your report?
Not specifically. I tried to make the report as simple as possible. There wasn't one particular matter that determined the glowing surplus in 2025. There was a lot of little things that did add up, but I hope the report's explained it to the members' satisfaction.
I have one question. I note under the aerial spraying, you said it is estimated to have contributed approximately 13,000 to the bottom line. Is that having taken account of the labour expenses utilised in that aerial program from council's operational staff?
Yeah, it's probably the best that I could estimate it at this point, given the way that the accounting treatment of the income and the individual expense items, it wasn't overly clear. So there had to be some assumptions there and some best guesses made, if you like, and also an elimination of every other possibility. So what we will be focused on going forward is having a more clearly defined accounting structure where projects like aerial spraying can be articulated on what it's actually cost council per year. So we're focusing on the accounting treatment, the accounting structure.
This was one of the great dichotomies that members had in moving forward as to suspending this aerial program, because we could not make sense as to whether we were losing money or making money.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was taking up a lot of staff time, so that was one of the major concerns. But obviously, from a public relations exercise, it has always been very promoted by the organisation as being a positive. But if it's taking our staff away from core activities, that was the question.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion? Member Reynolds.
So I just want to flag again that $30,000 that's in the WAP that was a one-off, as well as and the 12,000 or whatever the money was for the signs. I'm not quite sure whether that
18,000.
So I think it was more. There was a slight top up on the WAP, but I don't think it was full inflation. Anyone has any other information? I did want to highlight, though, you were just talking about aerial. The most important thing is that when we're doing the aerial time inspection, it's when there's active plant growth, and and given a report later, which I won't divulge, it's confidential. It's indicated that we're behind on those inspections.
Right, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion. Council notes the financial year 2025 financial analysis report from the General Manager. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Go to item 9, notice of motion. It's not a recommendation, actually it's a motion because it's been put by a member. The motion is that CTWA provide 80,000 equally split amongst the 4 constituent councils in the form of a drawdown for roadside weed control in the 2025-26 financial year from CTWA's accumulated surpluses. That's your motion, Member Reynolds. Do you have a seconder? Member Ring, thank you. Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. In looking at the financials, and we've just heard from the General Manager that some of them were a one-off. So again, I looked at sharing some of the surplus, I'll use the word surplus, back to the full constituent councils. And as the explanation and in the background there, that's the most equitable way to share a surplus, because we are all for each individuals that have a quarter share in this entity. So if you're going to share any surpluses at all, you need to do it on a quarterly basis, the same as there are two councillors or two members from each council here at this council meeting, except one there's an apology today. So with regard to the roadside program, I saw this as an equitable way to give back to each of the four constituent councils something to, given the contentious nature of the roadside program and some councils expressing a great deal of concern, to try and assist the four constituent councils in undertaking and either doing extra on top of what they've allocated, or if the whole area is done, as in actually not charging as much, but giving each of the four constituent councils that support to try and offset. I do, while it's not in this motion, it is important that we actually start talking with each of the four constituent councils with regard to the roadside program and particularly traffic control. I have had a discussion with the director in Blaney, and the director is very happy to work with the general manager about traffic plans for Blaney Shire. I would hope that the other three councils would be of a similar ilk, which may actually reduce the costs.
We have tried to previously. We had the general manager of Oberon actually speaking to the former general manager about traffic control on non-state and Transport for New South Wales managed roads.
So anyway, the director at Blaney, I talked to him earlier this week, is happy to have a conversation, and he believes that we can, in Blaney Shire, come up with a traffic management plan outside of state roads, the highways and state roads, that will be more accommodating. So that offer is out there. And again, I'm sure if fellow councillors talk to their general manager or through the general manager to directors, there may be a similar offer out there to try and reduce the cost of the roadside program to some extent with the new general manager. I'm sure the new general manager has new ideas and philosophies, so I thought it was a great olive branch. But this this motion is pointed at trying to also soften some of the extra costs and distribute some of the surplus back to each of the four constituent councils. As Chair.
Ditto.
All right, I've got a couple of questions, Member Reynolds. One of them is that the first is that when staff of this organisation were actually doing some of the spraying, I think they did $50,000 worth of spraying last year, was it?
Something like that.
Yeah, right. The greatest benefit of that, and so was to Bathurst Regional Council. So it reduced their cost of doing their roadside spraying the most.
Chair, I was going to come to this matter.
My argument is that the other councils should therefore benefit a little bit more, because we had to pay the full cost of contractors for that work, whereas Bathurst had the benefit of the staff doing it at a reduced cost. That's my first question.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
Your second question, as in, because of the structure of the entity and the charter of the entity, we are all equals with regard to surplus. The distribution of any...
Well, we should have all had anything to do the staff doing work on our roads.
Which, as I've suggested, Chair, that's the next item. We should be debating that there and not here.
No. My second question is that Oberon has currently issued an expression of interest to go out for expressions of interest to undertake spraying, which may in fact use a different traffic control system than we currently use. It may be similar on the state and regional roads, but may be different on local roads. But if we do that, how do we obtain the benefit of this if we decide to do all our roadside spraying externally and not use the services of this organisation?
As it is a distributed surplus back, there may be a way that actually...
I thought this was going to go through as a credit against your costs of your
Well, it is a distribution of the surplus, as in whether we need a legal interpretation.
Well, it's a drawdown.
It's a drawdown of the accumulated surpluses, correct.
So I assume that in a drawdown, we actually wouldn't be paying the cash back. We would actually be given a credit against the roadside services for that amount. Is that how you interpret it, General Manager?
Yes, it is.
And that was the ultimate original aim, Chair. And it's up to the individual councils. So if an individual council decides not to, then one would assume it would stay in accumulated surpluses.
Okay, any other questions?
No, look, I think it's fair to divvy it up 4 ways. What's happened in the past is irrelevant. I think there needs to be good faith with all the constituent councils. After all, that's where we're getting the money from for this. So I think it's a goodwill gesture and it should be supported.
Any other councillors? Member Graham, do you have a view?
Yeah, if you're concerned with Oberon, then they use the $20,000 from this organisation and they don't have to spend as much with the contractor.
Yeah, we can do that.
That would be the way to go, wouldn't it?
As long as it's a standing offer with that we don't have to give all our road services, no, which is not in the EOI. No.
As a follow-on, Chair, from Councillor Graham's comments, that yes, that might be a way that you do $20,000 worth of work, and if Oberon was then doing the rest, and there was subject to a particular road or agreement.
Absolutely, that's what I was hoping Member Graham might suggest.
Collusion.
No, there was no collusion, but I just. All right. Any further discussion? If not, I put the motion that CTWA provide 80,000 equally split amongst the 4 constituent councils in the form of a drawdown for the roadside weed control in the 2025-26 financial year from CTWA's accumulated surplus. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to item 10, biosecurity compliance. Financial year 2025 roadside spraying analysis report is 10.1. The recommendation is the council notes the financial year 2025 roadside spraying analysis report from the General Manager. Can I have a motion, please? Member Ring, seconder, Member Reynolds. Thank you. Member Ring.
I think it's a good look. When I go through these reports, I tend to write the questions as I go. Otherwise, I tend to forget. But one of the things is when you look at the reports previously, you look at why, say, particularly for Lithgow, why is the per kilometre rate a hell of a lot dearer? But this report actually spells out the differences and the reasons for it. So I'm really comfortable with the weed spraying program. The council that Lithgow hasn't put in enough money in the past. We're paying the price now. Other councils have done more, and they're getting the benefits. It's also the topography as well. So there's a lot of factors. So yeah, I think it's a really good report.
Member Reynolds.
I've got a question, and it follows on the previous comments on the previous motion. For the last 2 years, why has Bathurst Regional Council been heavily subsidised with the staff labour? Vast majority, in fact, total labour in 23-24, and the vast majority of labour in 24-25 being focused on Bathurst Regional Council when the County Council does not have a profit motive or any other. So the cost would be far less, and hence it's come out in the figures that, and particularly in the last financial year, Bathurst was by far the cheapest, but Bathurst even in the previous financial year was second cheapest, just behind Blaney, which did its easiest country in that first financial year, the softest country around Millthorpe that had the least amount of weeds. So I'm just wondering why the County Council has for the last 2 years put all its staff resources into Bathurst Regional Council. Well, the vast majority, probably 95%.
Well, that was my question in the previous one. So, General Manager?
I'm not aware of the answer to that question. I'd defer to my colleague if he does. Otherwise, we can take it on notice.
Yes.
Probably.
Sorry.
It's probably because Bathurst has been missing out for years. Finally catching up, that's how I see it.
I'm asking that.
Maybe they knew he was going to be so much.
Only new, that's what I heard.
Because I know he actually might know the facts rather than have this.
You're taking the fun out of it.
Thank you.
I'll try to answer.
That's right.
Okay, it's a combination of things. One part is that the staff are predominantly based in this area. So we're saving on travel there and travel back. So that greatly, otherwise we're paying for a contractor to drive to another area and we're paying for staff to drive to another area. So we're paying, if we didn't use as much staff in this area, we'd be paying more for transport driving to and from than we would be actually spraying. Another factor that helps balance it out is, yes, we used more staff in Bathurst, but when you look at the rate that the staff can do in a day versus the rate the contractors can put out in a day, the contractors are faster than what staff are. So even though the contractors cost more per hour, when you look at cost and production in a day, there isn't that big a difference between the cost of the contractor and the cost of staff, because they can put more out and cover more country in a day versus what the staff can cover in a day.
Question, if I may, Chair.
Yes.
This is the same staff that are doing the inspections.
Yes.
So we had the issue of staff time being tied up with the aerial spray, but we're putting staff into doing inspection, no, not doing inspections, but
No,
spraying.
we're not doing it anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, this what we're talking about, not the aerial, this.
Yeah.
So
We're not doing this anymore.
not putting the staff to spray?
No.
Okay, good.
That's what we
That's what I was
decided
getting at.
about 3 meetings.
That's 3 meetings ago, it's a long time. It's a long time ago.
Right. Any other questions? I've got a couple. We go to the historical investment roadside spraying. The second bullet point says, in contrast, Bathurst Regional Council and Blenheim Shire Council consistently funded roadside spraying programs in recent years, leading to reduced weed presence and consequently lower ongoing costs. I was the impression that Oberon had up until last year done the same, but has a huge cost of its roadside spraying.
Yeah, that's partly due to the, as we know, the terrain, the types of plants, the roadsides, and all that access to. Bathurst did also throw some of that
Other funding in it.
other funding out, which was part of that drought relief funding going back a few years ago. They threw a number of amounts of funding at that, which they Bathurst had left over from that. And it goes towards roadside funding as well.
Because the 23-24, I mean, the cost per kilometre in Lithgow is $733 per kilometre. This in 24-25 is $599.
Yeah, but that's because we changed locations. We went from a highway heavy and
Yes.
like southern area of Lithgow to getting out to the flat northern country, which was,
And he dropped to 133, it was still the highest rate, $599.
yeah, but as we know, Lithgow's, as Stephen said before, was trying to now
Catch up.
catch up again.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm just going to make one more comment, Chair. When you look at the contractors in coming back to Bathurst, the proportions 17,000 versus 44,000. There's more to it. As in, seriously, as in if you look at the cost of our staff, as in the contractor has a profit margin, the contractor also pays themselves quite handsomely, and we pay award wages to our staff. Yes, they don't work as long hours, but I think our staff do a pretty good job. I'll stand by our staff, but it's just, we shouldn't be, and I know moving forward we're not, so it'll be distributed out amongst the as in evenly now with contractors across the four, so we'll get a better indication. And if there is a big rise in Bathurst, it will give you an indication of this, if, and I assume Bathurst is going to continue with the program, it may give you a strong indication that there was an issue and there was subsidisation of Bathurst against the other three constituent councils. The other point I wanted to make, I think it was in one of the reports, as in talked about topography, it talked about historical investment. Blaney didn't do any extra historical investment, but we are fortunate that in Blaney Shire, there are a number of landholders that reach over the fence, and particularly in small laneways, as in, you know, council roads.
You had Katie contribute to some too.
But that's separate to this. As in Cadia's figures are not in this report in this section, because that was purely council as opposed to the Cadia project, which is separate, which was about, I think it was about 200, would that be right, Chief Biosecurity Officer, about $200 a kilometre this year, which was some new, but a lot of year two, as in spraying year on year, and a combination of both. So if you put that in, Blaney's would come down, but this was purely the roadside program for each of the council separate to the Cadia project.
So just remind me for a second, the figures that we're using and quoting to councils for 25, 26 are the average cost per kilometre for 24, 25. Is that what we've quoted for this year for councils to do their work?
Well, we haven't quoted them.
I thought we agreed that we would give them a quote so that they would be able to put their budget in. We were meant to give them quotes, I thought we had a resolution on it, and I thought it was by April every year so that they could put it in their next year's budget.
They were going to use the average dollar figure from the previous year.
Which one are they using?
Well, it would be the last year's one.
So 23, 24.
No.
They wouldn't have had the full 24, 25 by the time. But there is a motion on the books, General Manager, that we would give information to councils by a certain time. I thought it was March or April, so that they could budget their next year's weed spraying program.
I can follow that up.
There's definitely a motion on the books, or it might have gone into the changes to the SLA.
But Chair, can I, as in within Blaney Shire Council again, given I've had some direct input, as in the Director of Infrastructure had that information, and that's how we did, as in construct our budget.
Right, so it did go.
So, well, Blaney Shire got information on this year's average cost, how much was left to go. And I think there was a report.
There was a report that came to council, yes, there was. And that was the basis that was used. Okay, that's fine. All right, any further discussion?
I'm just
Yes.
going to note the obvious and state the obvious. I'm just noting that Lithgow contributed 50% or 49% in 24-25. We're still sitting at a pretty high percentage point in this year of all contracted works. I just need to go away and digest where those kilometre costs are. So I just need to better understand that. I can't make an informed comment without the detail, but it's a substantial budget that we're putting in annually.
Yes.
So I'm happy to note the report and accept that, and note that there might be some challenges. I think topography wise, we're not unlike the Oberon Shire. So we've probably got the same challenges there, but I just want to understand that a bit better. Where we're sitting at about 600 a kilometre at the moment. So
I think a big part of that too, Dennis, is the apart from topography and all that sort of stuff. In like say Blaney, for example, and parts of Bathurst, a lot of areas where landowners will spray over the fence. That makes a big difference when we come through, because there's whole sections we can just drive past and check and go, right, we don't even have to worry about this, it's all done. That makes a huge difference to us. The other part is types of plants that are growing in certain areas. Lithgow gets a lot of gorse and broom and that we don't see very much of in the other areas. They chew up a lot of time and chemical treating them. But also too, just the levels, infestations on some of those roads, and some of it is a historical thing that the roads haven't been treated for years because the funding wasn't there, and others is just the climate that they're in. Lithgow, well, it's not unfortunate, but Lithgow gets quite high rainfalls and things like that, which encourages, especially some of our woodier stuff, to get going and build up a density quite quickly along roadsides.
Peabody Valley as well, we've got a lot of absentee landlords. And they're not that, and with the smaller property, they're not the ones that are putting the spray over.
Yeah.
They're whinging about why isn't council doing it.
Well, a lot of them are not using the spray in their property,
Well-
but outside.
That's fair, but I was trying to be generous, you know.
Yes.
As you say, stating the obvious, each council area, each LGA have their own set of contributing factors, regardless of what they are, but they're not necessarily reflected when you look at the figures. I mean, all you see is, extenuating figures there without taking into consideration the backstory.
There's also other things like access, like Blaney relatively is flatter, easier to get off the side of the road. A lot of Lithgow and parts of Oberon, it's hillier, it's harder to get off. You've got to get off, you've got to pull back or pull forwards to try and reach what you're trying to reach. That all takes more time than being able to sneak off the road, hit it, and keep sneaking on the road again. So, yeah, but each council area, and not only that, each area within a council area and each road is unique. There's no two that are the same. So we get fluctuations throughout. You'll see it within council areas. This road will cost this roughly, and then you go down the next road and it can be higher or lower depending on so many different factors.
Okay, yes, Member Reynolds.
I'm just going to suggest at the end of this financial year, any applicants is to continue with the county council spraying program and how many go it alone. As a discussion I had with Blaney, infrastructure director, he's happy to continue with the county council for this current financial year. But we need to do a proper analysis after year 3. And I know Blaney will probably be the only council that will finish in the year 3. And that's our objective at this point in time to finish the 3-year rotation on target. And we've been fortunate to have that KDA project as well, which has reduced our cost. But to actually look at what's in each sector, because some sectors, and I'll use Blaney as an example because I'm more aware of it. The highway was this last financial year, and the highway is very, very wide. And it was a large component. I think it was about 40 kilometres or somewhere around that, Chief Biosecurity Officer.
35 or something, but
and they had a lot of blackberries, as in it had been uncontrolled. The neighbours don't control it over the fence, as opposed to a lot of laneways. And so that was a big contributing cost. But whether we can actually put that over 3 years, so a component of the highway each year, because technically this financial year, the highway, there's no highway to be done or state roads to be done. There is a little bit of highway because there was a couple of points missed, and also one where there was roadworks that the county council couldn't do. But whether we can actually change it so we can get a little bit more even, and also year 1 is on the softer Millthorpe country. Again, a lot of the landholders control the weeds in that area. And so the cost was a lot lower, as you can see there too. So whether we look at changing after this end of this financial year, as in how the 3 areas to more evenly, otherwise you're going to have big bumps on different parts of each LGA. Thank you, Chair.
I agree. I think we will continue to review the program as we move along. And if Oberon ends up going out to outside, it'd be interesting to compare that against the results for the CTWA as well. All right, no further discussion. I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to item 10.2, property inspections. Recommendation is the council notes a report. Have a motion, please. Motion, please, members. Reynolds, Gulliver, thank you. Reynolds. Talk to us.
I do have a question. It's about numbers.
Hmm.
Total inspection, so in that first box, started with 326 and all of a sudden you moved to 277. I'm a bit confused why.
Chief Vice Premier. So the 277 should be 326 or the 326 should be 277?
So one would then assume the 163 and the 114 are incorrect. And it's also, it's also May at the heading, May 25, and then June and July on the side. As well, it's getting very confusing on what's.
Through the chair, we can take this one offline and review the report and reissue it out of session.
So Chair, the second.
I'm just having trouble with the figures. So at the top, we've got 163 of the what is now 326 were re-inspections. But 114 of the 326, but the 163 and the 114 don't add up to 326 either. There's something wrong there.
Could I move an amendment? We defer the report to the next meeting. That can be tidied up. Okay. Got a seconder? There's no point sitting here talking about it. We need to have the correct figures.
So I just want to know, but I'd like to know if the 90 days passed, were the 91 properties beyond the 90 days? I thought there was more confidential, but I wasn't. Yeah. Maybe that's correct.
Can we do the motion? Yeah, Chair, if you don't mind. You defer the report?
You want to move an amendment?
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment to defer the report to the next meeting, just so we can get it updated and more accurate.
Well, it's 3 months, so I think that
Well, it could be
circulated prior to the next meeting.
Well, I suggest looking at an extraordinary, Chair, but so.
Well,
If they have it at the next meeting, if we have an extraordinary in September, that's fine. But
yeah, we'll move. Well, there'll be one for the audit report in September, so change it to that the report is deferred to the next extraordinary meeting at the same time
Well,
as the
next
audit
meeting, it can be ordinary or extraordinary, so just say
Well-
next meeting.
Well, next meeting, okay, next meeting.
Go second.
So I'm happy as the mover of the original to modify.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Thank you.
Right. So the motion reads that this report be deferred until the next meeting of CTWA. Is that how you want it read? Correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so who was the mover and seconder, Bethany? Member Reynolds and Member Gulliver, was it?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that.
Yep. Right. All right, all in favour? Thank you. Go to item 10.3, penalty infringement notices. Recommendations, council note report. Member Murdoch, please. Member Reynolds. Member Dawson, was that you scratching your nose? I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have a thing about me scratching.
Thank you. Member Reynolds.
Just don't seem to be issuing a lot of pins or
No.
no pins. So, but I assume again, there was a lot of deferments as into extensions, sorry, is probably the correct word, of a lot of those inspections, no matter whether it was 300 plus or 250 plus. So I think that's the thing that just extensions. So through you to the chief vice president.
Yes, so we had some routines issued, some were extension, and then more issued since the report was written as well.
So how many issued since the last report? 110?
110 or something?
Yeah.
Just over.
So there's 7. Who was the second? The second was second of the motion.
Councillor Dawson.
Dorset, that's right. So have you got any comment on this?
No.
Okay. Right, any other discussion? No other discussion? I put the motion as per the recommendation. Council notes report. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 11, confidential reports. Council notes in accordance with section 928 of the Local Government Act 1993, the General Manager is the appearance of business on the agenda designated as confidential and listed in the above table, being 12.1 prosecution updates, 12.2 property inspections are of a kind referred to in section 10A2 of the Act, should be dealt with in the part of meeting close to the meeting in public. Further, in accordance with 10B1 of the Act, is considered the discussion of the business in open meeting would on balance be conflict with public interest. Could I have someone move us into confidential, please? Member Gulliver and Member Ring. Thank you. All in favour? I ask members in the gallery to please leave the meeting and members who are online who are not staff or members to leave the meeting, please. We cease the recording of the meeting.